This week on Not Just Another Sex Podcast.
A lot of the conversation that we was having as it relates to your relationship, I could tell that you was still hiding. Yeah, you was doing a lot of work with Sexual Essentials and being very transparent about sex. But when it came down to your relationships and what was really going on and how you was feeling, that wasn't showing up.
You also knew I had to get ready.
This is going to come out, that's how I knew that we would be talking again, because the more we walk in our purpose, the more we walk in what we came here to do, baby, your secrets come out.
Like right now, I've never been more fulfilled in what I'm doing. And it's been the hardest, most difficult, bumpy.
Oh, don't I know?
Alignment. This who hold all my secrets.
Hey, sugar. I feel like there are so many different things that I need to learn as an adult. I'm this nasty on a regular day, like on a Tuesday. I am your host, Samia Burton, and don't worry, it's not just another sex podcast.
Welcome back to Not Just Another Sex Podcast. My name is Samia. And oh my gosh, if you are not watching the visuals, I know we say this every episode, but baby, do y'all... Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Not Just Another Sex Podcast. My name is Samia and I'm your host. And I'm super excited, per usual, because first of all, I love my goddamn job. But because I have a well-known guest. If you've been around from the jump, since the Patreon, since the Sexual Essentials, since the dating... How many people? Through the different people, through the dating stories. I am here today with none other than my Gigi, my fairy godmother. You guys have always asked, where's Gigi? How's Gigi doing? And Gigi is doing well. Gigi is here with us today.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Hi, family. So glad to be here. Like, this has been a manifestation full circle. And I'm just enjoying just watching just all of the beautiful things that you've been able to manifest in such a very short time, might I add. But we'll get into that later.
We'll get into it. We're going to get into it super soon.
Yes.
Now, this is a real show by real people, and this is such a good episode that I just want to ask and make sure that you guys, team, are we good on sound? Does she need to bring it up any? Or are we okay? We're good. I just want to make sure because she's a little, I didn't really, I'm more loud, so I just want to make sure. That's because the getting gonna get good, y'all. This is a real show by real people, okay? All right, thank you so much. Shout out to 404 Creators coming through and keeping us together. If you are in Atlanta, make sure that you use them for your podcasting needs here at the Something Extraordinary Content House. All right, so we are going to get into it today. So today's episode is I'm going to say it'll be different. I say that every time we tell a piece of my story. If you guys have not been picking up on the trends, sometimes we bring people in and we're talking about a topic or a subject, but sometimes I'm bringing in someone to tell you another part of my life story, someone to help with the social anxiety that I have around sharing these things, or either someone that has been heavily involved or doing both to help me share this story. Not Just Another Sex Podcast is about telling you guys the things that I've went through to become the woman that you guys see today. If you haven't been rocking with me for very long, you got to understand that I'm the founder and CEO of also Sexual Essentials. So if you haven't, this is your notice to go back and listen to the very first episode so you can catch up, so you can understand, so you can get the tools that I'm giving to change your life the same way that I did, because 5 years ago, my life did not look like this. We gonna get into that.
It did not. So, woo! But what it looked like, though.
So we're gonna start things off. So welcome to my show.
Thank you. Come on. Yes. Say it again. Say it one more
Welcome
time.
to my show.
Welcome to your show.
Welcome to my show.
Uh-oh.
So we're starting off with the adult tip of the day. So the adult tip of the day is this part where we put a little therapy in your back pocket, a little adult tip, like get a cleaning lady, learn how to do CPR. Like, I think we forget that we are the adults now, right? And so just something to help make adulting a little bit easier, or something that you need to think about, a thought. So today's adult tip of the day. Realest shit I ever read. People pray for the cake. Then the universe gives them the batter, oil, icing, a pan, an oven. They get frustrated and leave the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Let that sink in. Sometimes you have everything right in front of you, but how bad do you want it? And For my hard-headed ass. For me, that is literally my story, right? And this manifestation that we're sitting in right now, this set that we're sitting on, this content house, and come on, let's talk about it. The sets aren't looking like this. They're not looking like this. I put my heart, soul, and pussy into these sets. Y'all know that. Y'all know that. We brought in the best of the best to do everything that needed to be done. And shout out to Naya. Get it, girl. Yes, best interior designer ever. She speaks Samia.
Yes, yes, she does.
I told her, I said, I want a library in my house and a ladder, like one that moved for real. So that's why I'm sitting on this side, y'all. And she made that happen for me. But this manifestation was about Gigi pulled me in 6 months ago. And we were talking about all these amazing things that were coming. And we were talking about the cake. Yes. This amazing cake. The content house is the cake. This is what's coming for you. And this is going to be amazing and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, hell yeah, I want that cake. And I got started on the journey, and I had oil and I had a pan and I had flour and the chemistry of cooking, right? And for 6 months, I have been going through it. Yes. The happiest and craziest and most challenging moments of challenging my mind, the discipline, and being alive is traumatic, and learning how to overcome the discipline that you need to control your own mind. Yes. That's what I've been going through. And now the cake is finally in the oven. Come on. You know? And I would call Gigi and I would be like, I don't know if I can do this. I have to do too much. I'm giving everything. There's nothing left, you know? And so this episode is about the journey with Gigi, my astrologist, and the real life examples that we are literally sitting in right now. Like, just called you going off last week. And so, yeah, so we're taking a slice of that today and letting you guys in. So that was our adult tip of the day.
Hey, you guys, it's your host, Samia. If you're enjoying the topics over here, honestly, I think you'd love the topics over on my learning platform. I have some private interviews over there with some amazing guests. I've interviewed Mr. Marcus, yes, that's the porn star, Passion Jones, who brought on her husband and her boyfriend, and even had some girls' night conversations with Medina from Cocktails as well as Mila from Good Moms Bad Choices. That conversation was amazing. We did some examples of our dirty talk, and let's just say you need to check it out. Don't just take my word for it. Make sure that you click the link below and sign up today. There are over 250 workshops, classes, interviews, and so much more. All right, now back to the show.
So now we're going to move on to Twitter Talk.
Okay.
Now, Twitter Talk is what we talk about. Something that's a little controversial, something that folks throw around, or, you know, things like that. And they're said all the time. But because we like to pay respects to Black Twitter, where all the amazing conversations start and hilarious conversations, right?
So good.
And where everything goes viral. And so today's Twitter Talk is about generational curses. Oh. Right? So we hear generational curses thrown around all the time. Gigi is shaking her head, y'all.
Because you already know, yo, like it's that word curse. You know, I think it's overused, but we also don't realize that when we even put something in the state of like generational curse, you've just created it. What I mean is, it's not a curse. A lot of the things that we go through in life is because we have to realize the word generational is what comes first, right? Which is understanding that a lot of the things that are going on that's happening in your life is because there's a root cause to it, right? So that means your grandparents had to deal with something. Therefore, your parents had to deal with something, and now you're dealing with something. Sometimes we have to realize that these things are happening so that we can make the generation better, right? But when we start to use the word curse, then what wind up happening is you keep that thing that may be the problem in the family, you keep it going. You know what I'm saying? It's a
defining word.
Yes.
It's a very, this is what it is, word, as in it can't change, and that's not true.
And that's the thing, because a lot of people look at a curse as something that there's nothing I can do about it. Like, we're doomed. This is what we're going to always be dealing with. And that's not the case. We're talking about energy here. You know what I'm saying? And we've all heard in science, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? It's a consistent thing. But energy can change. We can grow with it. We can learn from it, so that now our generations don't have to deal with some of the same issues that have always plagued. conflict. In my family, alcoholism is something that's always been there, right? So instead of me saying, oh, this is a curse on my family, I look at the fact that either I can continue my cycle of, doing the same thing I've seen my family do, or what I can do is realize that the reason why my family had this issue was because they were running from their problems and they used alcoholism as an escape, right? It's not a curse. It's just also something that we use to just escape our problems,
The generational pattern.
Yes.
So I think this is also a great conversation because understanding what karma actually is.
Yes.
And so when I first met Gigi, something that I was having a very difficult issue with was I'm a great person. Like, at least I think so. I'm pretty cool. Like, I have my little...
We all think you're great.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know I'm amazing now. But when I met Gigi, I didn't know the way I know. Mm-hmm. But even then, I was like, I'm pretty nice. Like, I ain't fucking with nobody. Like, And she was like, that's not why these things are happening to your life. Nothing in life is happening to you.
Yes.
Just like there's karma, there's generational karma.
Yes.
And the thing she had to get me to understand was, baby, your family karma is bad. Do you know how scary it was for her to tell me that? Because I'm like, but these are my family. Like, we're bad as a whole, or, just trying to understand that karma is not if you do something is done to you. You know what I mean? What it is that it's cause and effect.
Exactly.
When something happens, there is going to be a reaction for that choice. So the choice is always yours.
Yep.
And unfortunately, my family and a lot of people's families, especially people of, Black and brown people of color, have different patterns that we have not been encouraged to talk about. It's been said family business and things like that. And that's how it stays as a generational pattern, the things that we go through.
Yes.
With this show, and with everything that's been happening recently or over the last 6 months, and not recently, the things that have come into fruition recently, we've been working on for years.
Yes.
And we need to go back to the beginning.
Unfortunately, yes, we have to start them off.
We do. We need to go to the beginning. So, Gigi, would you please tell everyone what it is that you do? And we'll start from there.
Okay. Well, I am an intuitive astrologist as well as a mental health advocate, therapist, as well as I'm an educator on multitude of things with the body, including plant medicine. I'm also a doula. So I do a lot of things. But to Samia, I have been her consistent astrologist for the last going on 4 years now. And we've just went through a lot of things, like she just said, opening up the ideas of what the issues are, like what do these things come from, and now that I do have these things, what can I do about them? I think a lot of people look at astrology, and because it's a lot of these maths and these angles and degrees, we run from it. But we have to look at energy, and everything is, number one, is all math, but it's also showing you what your math is, what's being passed down to you, and how you can take those things and make choices with them, right? Meaning you can take these things and decide to get better, or you can take these things and use them as excuses. Doesn't really matter which one that you decide to do, but just know that you do have to make a choice. So we have been working consistently on her choices and just letting her know what's in the chart, what she can do, and how she can go after these things. But it definitely does take discipline. It takes you having an immense amount of self-care and caring about yourself and dating yourself and doing a lot of things that a lot of us are afraid to do because we love to be the victim of our life. And again, these are also generational things that we learn. But at the same time, you didn't come here to be a victim of your family. You didn't come here to be a victim of your circumstances. We all came here to learn. And so that through that learning, we can be a testimony for ourselves and other people. And that's what's so beautiful about you and your stories, because out of those things that may have been challenging situations for you, they have now opened the door for you to tell your story. So a lot of people can say, that's my story too. you know? And not only that, this beautiful space that you've been able to create came out of those traumas. It came out of those things. You was able to look at that and say, well, how can I change? And through those changes, look at what we've been able to manage and what we've been able to birth out of those things. So astrology for me has been a 15-year consistent change of my life, and it saved me. And because it did save me, I'm now able to continuously tell my story. And through me telling my story, I've been able to meet beautiful women like you and just beautiful people in the world to give them how to use this math on a day-by-day basis to change, and not only change their life, manifest things that would have never been able to be manifested in your generations before. But now that you have the power and understand your emotions, which is a big part of this, we are able to create things that we've never been able to manage in our lives.
Absolutely. And when we go back to the beginning of this story, the first thing that happens is you have to accept that sometimes people that you love did things that were not in the best interest of you.
Yes.
And for me, that there was so much pent up inside of me, so much ambition and so much vision and things like that. And I was having a lot of difficulty getting those things out and onto paper and in reality, because I could not accept telling the truth about my story. And so this show is a daily choice to break and change the generational patterns of my family, which meant that I had to tell the truth.
Yes.
Because telling the truth is what really got me into my purpose. Sexual Essentials was an avenue, was my choice of healing. It was something that my body and my spirit connected with, right? And we'll get into how you knew that I was in the right field, but it wasn't the end. My purpose called for more, and there was a level of honesty and real love that was needed to do that. And real love has accountability in it.
Yes.
So when you guys hear these episodes, and even to my family that hears these episodes that sound so difficult, this is years of intentional love of me changing the generational pattern. This is the answer. This is, how do we change?
Yes.
How do we change? And so this show is the steps that you've never seen before, you know, not from my angle, you know what I'm saying, this way. And so I'm super excited. And this is why you always feel the intention behind what I do. And I'm so particular because my purpose is particular, you know? So let's start with, speaking of accepting the truth, how we met.
Right.
I met Gigi. Shout out to Cocktails, Medina, and Kiki.
Hey, girls.
They were the first podcast I was on in Atlanta, and I also heard your episode with them, and it was a great episode. And I was like, okay,
let's so much fun.
It was so great. Like, it was a great way. Like, if you, and I encourage you all to go back and listen to that episode. But if you're new to astrology, or even trying to understand it, like the chart purposes, this is not that type of episode. This is how you can use the chart.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Understanding the chart, a whole nother thing. We get to that. But, and so I was drawn in, and I was like, okay, so I scheduled a appointment with her. I made a reading to get my birth chart done, because it seemed like you could find out so much about yourself, which, if you're new here, astrology is a tool, not a belief system, but it is a tool, and it teaches you how to interpret the universe, which is the planets and where they are, just like they use with the weather, right?
Yes.
To understand what's going on with you based off where and when you were born, you know?
And the time.
And the time. So you need your date of birth, the location that you were born as in the city, and then the time of birth. And with that, it pulls information from all the planets and all this stuff. And and you are a factual thing. You are a factual thing. And so I wanted to hear about me, because who don't like hearing about them, right?
Everybody.
Everybody. I love to hear about me. Tell me more. So I call her, I do the chart, and we talking about telling the truth. And my truth at that time, don't look away. Look at me. Look right here. Look right here.
Okay, I'm ready.
And it's so crazy because last year for my 30th birthday, she sent me our very first call, and it was cringy as fuck. And with
I did it on purpose. Just know that.
Yes.
I was like, oh, she needs some reflection.
We come a long
understand
way.
How far we've come.
How
So
far
let me
we've
send
come.
this.
When I met Gigi, I was married. I was a new mother. I had just started Sexual Essentials. I had a husband and a boyfriend. I was being my true self, really acknowledging my polyamorous, bisexual self and living a life where I was telling the truth about who I was, right? I mean, I got a husband and a boyfriend. Why can't I must be living my truth, right?
You must be.
And a kid, and I'm an Aries married to a Leo, and that's what the stars say is most compatible, right? And so life was so good. It's good. And I said good the whole freaking call.
I'm great. This is great. My marriage is great. My life is great. I was like, really?
Is it?
It's really great. Okay, then. Tell me more about this greatness.
And it was just so crazy because at that time, because of what I thought I could accomplish and because of who I was at that time, that was great for me. That was a great life at that time. And so I want to talk about how you looked at my chart and knew that life could not be great. And you also knew that it couldn't be great because clearly I didn't know that it couldn't be great. What did you see in my chart? And Gigi's going to pull up some of my chart for some of this, so y'all gonna have to bear with us. But there were a couple of things that told you that this young lady is not in alignment, but also it was a moment where you said, I'm going to be in your life. First of all, the end of that call ended with, I'm going to be in your life. I'm here, for I was brought to you. I'm so glad that you started Sexual Essentials.
I'm the older version of you.
The older version of me, right? I'm so glad you started Sexual Essentials. That's great. It's great you have a boyfriend. Your marriage ain't gonna last, but have a good one, though. And that was our call. I did not talk to her for a year after that.
Yes. She went running for the hills. She was like, this is way more than I thought, But I knew she would be back.
Yeah, she was like, you'll be back.
I knew she was coming back.
You'll be back.
They always come back. Everybody always come back.
They always come back. So what were the things? And when I called you back, I was like, how did you know? I wanted to know how she knew because that's some power. That's some direction. I was lost. Like I mean, you know what we think marriage is and it's supposed to last forever. And I'd had a kid. So now it's like I didn't see myself as a mothering person. And now like we have to split this kid, which means that we're not together when I had this kid on my own and I need to not mess it up and, and all this other stuff. So I want you to talk to how you knew I wasn't in alignment, but also how you knew that we had to start working, because that was the other thing. She was like, we don't have a lot of time. We need to change some things. Like when I called her back that year later, she said, we don't have a lot of time, but it is not too late. Please explain more of what that meant.
Well, of course, what we just mentioned was how to pull up a birth natal chart. It's really important to pull that up because when you do, it gives you all the signs that you are. So one of the things that I want everybody to understand, and we have said this several times, is that you are literally every sign in the zodiac, just in different variations and different degrees. So when she started talking about this Leo husband that she had, and I started looking at her chart, I'm like, he is barely in this chart. He is barely hanging on by a thread. I'm just like, okay, fine, but her being a Leo rising, I knew, and I'm a Leo rising too. So I started looking at her chart and comparing our charts too. And that's also how I knew some things. I'm like, wait a minute, this is a younger version of me. So if I could tell, we say this to ourselves all the time, if I could tell my old self some things, what would I say, right? So I immediately started pouring those things into you and just telling you. It was your chance.
It was your chance to do it over.
Exactly. It was my chance to give you some things that I wish somebody had told me, or I wish that I was able to manifest that. And the fact that you were able to not only see this and say, you know what, I need to do this reading. It was my opportunity when I saw it to be able to just be transparent and honest with you. But in your chart, whenever we're looking at compatibility, there's certain signs in the chart that you want to look at when it comes down to that. So when I looked at your compatibility placements, he was not there, okay? He was in your rising sign energy, meaning that he was definitely allowing you to learn the lesson of who you were and how to be more bright and not dim your shine. So a lot of the conversation that we was having as it relates to your relationship, I could tell that you were still hiding. Yeah, you was doing a lot of work with Sexual Essentials and being very transparent about sex. But when it came down to your relationships and what was really going on and how you was feeling, that wasn't showing up. And that's why when we're having readings and I'm like, okay, so tell me more. Like I'm listening for certain things because those keywords allow me to see where you are and you just wasn't there, and I was like, yeah, that means he's not support. He's not in his strongest side of his Leo because she's not ready yet. So I knew that once you step boldly into who you really was when it comes down from your rising energy and really turning that heat up, I knew he wasn't going to be able to handle it. So that's why I had to just be like, okay, well, this is not the partner that you drew in for the bigness of what your life is. And that was in your compatibility placements, you know?
I want to take a pause there because you also, this is why it's important. And we're going to get to this at the end of the show, helping you guys look up your chart and all that stuff.
Yes.
But this is why you don't just go off your sun sign.
Exactly.
As an Aries, everywhere you look, it says the biggest compatibility is Leo. And like, I didn't marry this man because he was a Leo. I'm just saying, it seemed like, oh, when we finally start talking about astrology, oh, well, yay, it happens to be right or whatever. But also, she said something about he was there to show me who I was, which sounds like a positive thing. But it actually was so much of me being buried that also showed me who I was. It was a matter of no individuality whatsoever, because I was also 22 when I got married. So I had not blossomed. You know what I'm talking about? We're just talking about kindness and time with self and reality, which at 22, you have not become who you are, you know? So go
and
ahead.
he was learning, you know, that's why I said this is a relationship of learning. Y'all was really in that space. And not only did, you know, he was there to show you, you know, who you were, but it was vice versa. It was some things about him that he didn't know either. But through that relationship and that union, it allowed him to also do more for himself. And that's a beautiful thing about when, you know, we go into certain relationships and people want to regret relationships. I'm like, you can't regret relationships because they're teaching you things about yourself that you never knew. And if you were able to look at your chart and see where a person is, every time I meet someone and I find out as much as I can, if they know their chart, I'm like, what's in your chart? And they start telling me, I immediately go to where that is in my chart, right?
It tells you why you're supposed to be talking to them.
It tells me why I drew that person in, the purpose of them. And so our marriages and our unions are teaching us these things, but sometimes we stay and we hold on too long
for a lesson that was supposed to be temporary.
Yes.
See, what I do appreciate, and I know you guys have heard me talk about my marriage, and usually not in like a crazy way. Like, what my experiences are my experiences. But if you hear me talking the gist of it, I am so proud of him because he broke a generational pattern of his own for not just like himself, but men. Men believe they have to stay in these relationships because they committed to them. And there is so much self-care. And I've always admired since he told me that truth, which was, I haven't done everything I can do to make this marriage work.
Come on.
But I realize I don't want to. And that is how my marriage ended. And it ended with a hug.
Come on.
And it ended with us raising a child that literally has two parents that choose him. And what he deserves is two happy parents. And we think that looks like a marriage that lasts forever.
Yes.
It's okay if you make a mistake or learn a lesson. It is not okay to sit in it and commit to it as if you can't be kinder to yourself. Like, this wasn't right. This wasn't supposed to be forever. You deserve more and your kid deserves more. And you know, that baby right there, that baby was my biggest trigger. That was the other reason I called Gigi back, that me having a child triggered and changed my life. So he did teach me who I was, because it was with him that I realized, like, this isn't it. And it took for him to leave that me be like, damn, why you didn't? I knew for years, like, is this what love supposed to be like? I was like, damn. But we get into that. Anyways, go.
And the union of it, right? Because y'all still have a union.
Yes.
Y'all have a union because out of that marriage created this child. You know what I'm saying? Not just any child, a Taurus child. You know what I'm saying? That's ready to live the life. That's ready to take on all the things that comes along with you. And I think that's also really important for us to understand because, again, we're all connected. So if we definitely want our children to have a better life, then we have to sometimes look at ways in which we are afraid and ways in which we don't take chances on ourselves.
So afraid of kids.
Come on.
I'm so afraid of kids.
You know, it's okay.
So it was
Me too. I was afraid of children too.
Creatives, podcasters, entrepreneurs, If you're looking for an amazing place to create consistent content, then you need to check out the Something Extraordinary Content House. Located in the heart of Atlanta, it's in a great location as well as only 15 minutes from the airport. So whether you're in town or not, maybe you need to get more serious about the content that you're creating. This is a great place to create something extraordinary because it's equipped with 5+ rooms with 2 kitchens, 2 living rooms, amazing energy, plus a host of vendors that are already the best in their field at creating content. So make sure that you check us out at semediagroup.co or check out some visuals and events and amazing things that we have going on over on Instagram at SE Content House. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon because we're going to get to creating some extraordinary content. It's so crazy because Gigi, the other part, not just the love, but she asked me about my parents. She's like, has anyone ever touched you? Is there something that, what? She's like, I don't know what it is, but what happened to you? She's like, something happened. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, what is the trauma? Like, what is it? And then
Pluto
my
and
parents.
Scorpio.
there was that, and then there was about my parents. You said there's the, and I remember I asked you, how'd you know that? You asked about you were able to tell me about my mom, my dad, and you were able to tell me that there was a problem here.
Exactly.
And I said, oh, we worked that out already. Don't worry about it. That was a long time ago. I'm good. Hear that word again.
I was like, no, okay, fine.
So please expound on that.
So how I was able to see it, the chart shows everything, as well as I'm intuitive. So for me personally, I can already feel these things in people, but the chart allows me to confirm what I feel. So even when I'm asking you questions, I'm like, okay, so what's going on in your childhood? What did you experience? And you say, oh, nothing. I'm like, first of all, spirit is telling me it's definitely something, but let me go and look. Oh, it's right here. What do you mean it's nothing? So when I was able to call out some of the childhood stuff that happened, you know what I'm saying? A lot of that was because of your Pluto placement, right? So Pluto is the secrets, it's the hidden things, it's also the gifts through change and transformation. So you having Pluto in Scorpio, okay, which Pluto rules Scorpio, it just shows a lot of family secrets and things that may be hiding in the family that may not be talked about, you know what I'm saying? And stuff where you having it in your chart in particular, you're the child that's going to come and expose those things, and a lot of times we have things in our chart that we're supposed to help our families through, but because they hurt us so bad, they did so many awful things to us, we don't want to expose those things because we have to relive the trauma all over again. So I was very meticulous about how I brought it up because I knew it definitely had some things to deal with, maybe some sexual things. Why maybe some sexual things? Well, she has a business called Sexual Essentials. So why are we teaching sex? We're teaching sex because somewhere along the way, sex has been either abused or misused. It's just a very apparent thing that shows up. So a lot of the stuff that you was already doing let me know that there was some sexual trauma going on. Now, whether or not it happened directly within your parents or within siblings and those things, it could have been any of those things, but it definitely happened.
She knew it was close. She said it's somewhere close, like where, within the vicinity.
It's brother, sister, mama, daddy. It's
right
one of these.
There.
It's right there. But again, because I can see these things intuitively and I can see it in your chart, I can also feel how sensitive it may be for people. You know what I'm saying? And I can feel immediately when I said it, it was like, oh, I fixed it already. I was like, okay, she's not ready.
She's not ready.
I'm not going to say all of this stuff, right? I'm going to take my time with this. I'm like, okay, good. If you've worked on it, great. But I also can see that this is going to come out, that's how I knew that we would be talking again, because the more we walk in our purpose, the more we walk in what we came here to do, baby, your secrets come out.
Things have
to be revealed. Why?
They have to be corrected. When you're in alignment, alignment don't feel good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it do, but only because it hurt. You ever got them a deep tissue massage?
Yes.
It's so good for you, but that shit hurts. Yes. And so when we feel good, sometimes you're too comfortable. When you feel too good, and I'm not saying like you can't have good things, but I'm saying when you ask people about having an amazing life, it's not predictable. It's not one foot in front of the other. Like right now, I've never been more fulfilled in what I'm doing, and it's been the hardest, most difficult, bumpy.
Oh, don't I know?
Alignment. This who hold all my secrets. And it's just so crazy because when you brought up my parents, the defensiveness and the protection, the fact that I was protecting them, like no, they handled this and they fixed this,
knowing that it
and
wasn't.
it was, you know, and so I wasn't ready.
No,
That was a part of it, and you also knew I had to get ready.
Yes.
You knew that it was time. You knew that it was time to get ready.
Yes.
Sexual Essentials was a sign that it was possible that, hey, this girl could get back in alignment.
I knew you were going to do it. I knew you were going to do it. I always say people don't come to me and they don't find their selves to me until they are ready. You know what I'm saying? That's why I know people are going to come back. Because once you decide that you are really ready for the change, I don't show up in people's lives until they are ready for the change.
Right.
And then you happen to show up. So even though our first conversation was it was a lot of clarity. I had to get you to see as much as I possibly could because it's an hour. It's not like we are talking all day. But in that hour, I knew because I had already looked at your chart and saw how similar you were to me. I was like, this is the younger version of me. Oh, she's definitely going to listen. Even though she may not be ready for it all, I'm going to give her as much as I possibly can so that she can have the confirmation that she needs. Number one, you are huge. Your energy is big. You got so much to do. But we can't let these small emotional things that keep plaguing you, the overthinking, the overprocessing, we can't let those things stop from all this stuff that is getting ready to come right now. Right. You know what I'm saying? Your son needs this right now. You know, so I'm so grateful that even though it took you a year to come back.
A year, y'all.
I'm grateful that Spirit was still working with you and that you were able to tap into the things that you needed to tap into for yourself to be like, okay, even though this is scary, my marriage is falling apart. I don't know where I'm getting ready to go with my business and how to scale this, but I'm ready for this. And that's all sometimes we have to do. Sometimes even in your ignorance of not knowing astrology or numerology or any of the tools that you may use, if you can just keep the faith of knowing that you are ready for the change, it's going to open doors that you don't even know is available. But the moment you just say yes to your life, everything starts to change. And you came in saying yes.
What's so crazy is that I came in after my marriage ended. And it goes to show how choosing to commit to be in things for so long suppresses your intuition. And my entire life was about suppressing my intuition. And so it took us 4 years because every time we got to something and I found out this was something that needed to be fixed, it was like, now we need to go farther than that. And I was like, ain't nothing farther except...
I'm tired.
Boy, I was so goddamn tired. That's too damn bad, Grandpa.
Do it tired. Do it scared.
Do it tired, do it scared. But it's so crazy because it was like ain't nothing left except when I was at home and my family, and that's just... Now we're getting somewhere. And it was just the undoing. You ever took down a braid or your hair got in a little knot or your necklace got tangled up and you got to like undo it and you have to work backwards. It took us so long to work backwards and for me to understand that they were wrong. They loved you, you loved them, and they are wrong. And this is not okay.
Yes.
And it took me having a child for me to realize how not okay, because what it erupted for me, I almost snapped. Like when I had my child, it was a fear when people would touch him, when, you know what I mean? And like even the ways in which people can't touch me.
Yeah.
It was all a part of that. And it's just like so crazy because everyone assumes and thinks Samia is so touchy and sexual essentials and like, I mean, yeah, I'm nasty. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. That's in the chart too, but that's another time, another place.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later. We're gonna get this sappy shit out the way. But it was no, I really couldn't handle touch. And even in my marriage, understanding that, like thinking about how many times did we hold, like it for me, sex was a way I was comfortable being touched because that's where the first comfort started from me, from a parent, like the person that you're supposed to trust. Like at the end of the day, you don't know as a kid. Yeah. And so your role as a parent is the most important thing, because and that's the thing, you don't decide that child's path, but you do guide it heavily.
Yeah.
And the thing is that at the end of the day, everything that happened before I was 30 or before I became an adult, none of that is optional. You given the cards that you dealt, but that intuition in you, if you're with people that suppress your intuition or whatever, you're not going to be able to grow.
That's right.
And so, once I wasn't with my marriage, where I didn't have to check in or see about approval about what was inside of me, what I wanted to do, now I didn't have any approvals. And the real Samia will try anything 3 times.
Yeah.
I've always been looking for answers, for more. I've always been a dreamer. So I want to know, how did you know that, and eventually Gigi got to a point that she said, we don't have a lot of time and we need to get ready because life is about to change. Mind you, this was 4 years ago. So at that time, I'm like, oh, like I'm gonna get a promotion? Like I'm gonna get a new job. When I tell you, I was so short-sighted.
I was like, Lord,
all that imagination was just going to waste. And so I want to know how you knew from the chart that, and you would always say you're destined for greatness. And that shit sound like some bullshit because everybody be saying it.
Yes.
But Gigi
It's
was
cliche.
like, factually, she was like, factually, you're destined for greatness and we don't have a lot of time. What did that?
A lot of time, meaning that, okay, so even though you have your chart, right, we all know that the planets, everything is shifting, meaning, we hear about, micro retrogrades.
Right.
And,
Mercury microbraid.
The microbraid and the microwave, like all these things. But just like Mercury retrograde is not the same place every year, the planets are always shifting, and when these planets start to shift, they bring new things into the chart. So again, our chart is very similar, right? So when I'm looking at what's about to happen for me, I'm like, wait a minute, this is about to happen for her too. Hold on now. You need to get this in order because you're avoiding this, your emotions, especially we have your moon is in Virgo, my moon is in Pisces. So we're also polar opposites in that. We'll talk about that later too. and the ways in which these things show up. So just your overthinking and over processing and sometimes not wanting to do it, you're going to do it anyway. But just the words of not wanting to do it sometimes can get in the way. So I know that if I give you a state of urgency, this is happening within this, right?
I always pull that shit together.
You be like, can you give me a time frame? Are we talking about 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? And I'm like, okay, relax. It's going to be within this window, right? I like to give you windows because I know that the sense of urgency allows you to be on task as it relates to using the astrology in the alignment. Sometimes we want to work on relationships when it's not the relationship year. Sometimes we want to work on money and it's not the money time. So within your vibration of your chart, and we do yearly charts too. Yeah. So the yearly charts, all these things are giving us calculations of how these planets are going to move in your particular chart at a certain time. So because you came in, of course, as a yearly client, this is something that I do for all my yearly clients. I want to know what you got going on for the year. So even though I don't tell you everything, and you always get on me about this, why don't you just tell me? You ain't ready for that yet, you know? But I still pull it. So when I pull these things and you come in, I'm like, listen, these are your gifts and your talents. These are the things that's going to open up for these gifts and talents. But of course, you have to be ready for them. And being ready for them looks like this. So giving you those things has everything to do with me doing the mathematical calculation of your chart and seeing that there were certain things getting ready to happen within your 10th house that has a lot to do with our social status, what the world looks at us as what we want to see. So when you show up, we want to see the content house, right? In order for us to be able to make the moves that we need to make, you have to first make moves too. And this is another thing. We are all connected. Everybody in this room, your team, like we're all connected. And because we're all connected, if I had decided to not do my work and not change my life, right? What would that have done for you?
I would have never found you. A person that I could listen to. A person that I was willing to listen to.
There are things you would not know today, right? If I had not have decided to, instead of just staying in my depression and in my trauma Instead of me saying, you know what, I don't want this. I want something better for me and I want something better for my daughter. So I'm going to change my life. And I started to go on the journey of astrology and learning those things and seeing how it's going to help me. And through that, I never advertised my business. I just started telling people my truth. From my truth, people was like, well, hold on. Can you tell me something? And that's
tell me my truth.
Yes. Can you show me what
truth.
you see in you that I can see? So it became this informational thing that I was able to open up for myself. But through that, I'm 15 years into this now because of that, right? So you having to do what you needed to do at that time was very important to this.
Right.
This moment, this room we're sitting in right now, all these people you have employed, all this energy that we're working on together was very important to the story that I told you then, which was this is coming. So sometimes when you try to tell people what you see, this is where the intuitive energy comes in. When I try to give people the vision, they don't see it, right?
Everything's blocking that vision. And I will say, first of all, I'm a very hard head. Hard head make for a soft ass, okay? And there were a couple of things. One of the reasons that it was good to have milestones is one, life is just much bigger, you know? And if you looking at the end and you haven't drop the things that you need to drop and learn the skills that you need to learn. If I tell you you about to get a car in 2 years, but you don't know how to drive or you haven't got new insurance, you're still not going to be ready.
No.
And so the milestones that were given went in a particular order. And that particular order was important. You see us now on this show at the Content House. And the show was not the end. The Content House is the beginning, right? The show is not my big one. The show is for me. Okay? That's for me to tell y'all the story because I talk a lot and my friends be needing a break. So we put it on camera, right? I love a good memory, right? And to dress up and so I could be fancy.
Come on.
And show y'all my cleavage.
Be cute.
And so that was that. But the only way to get to the Content House was because I would need something to shoot at it, right? And the only way I would shoot something is if I would start a podcast. And I would not start a podcast because everybody got podcasts and all that stuff. But everybody don't have Samia's story. But if Samia don't commit to writing her memoirs and her book because she's doesn't want to tell the truth,
she's scared
that dad was climbing in the bed and mom knew. If she won't tell the truth about family, then how is she going to ever grow sexual essentials that had a time limit on it? We lost the Instagram page last year, you guys. This is 2023 that we're talking about this. In 2022, sexual essentials didn't end. It changed. And I could only get so far off of teaching about sex without telling these people how I knew what I knew. How do I know that this is going to work? Well, I have sexual trauma, Samia. I'm different. And in my mind, I'm like, that's how I know it's going to work because, baby, so do I. But if I don't tell them the truth, it doesn't matter how kind I am. They won't hear that thing to make them trust me for their intuition to say it's her. That's who you need next. That's the show you should listen to. That's who you should tap in with. Because once you start listening to that show, you're going to be more open to this and you're going to find your healing. And so I went through years of still trying to make it work with my parents. And I kept finding ways. And I would come back to Gigi and I said, you know what, you're right. I do need to do, and not right, but like I feel different because I didn't handle this. And so I went to therapy for a year privately, trauma therapy. It was one of the most it was like another postpartum. I think that definitely felt like a straw that broke the camel's back of my marriage because of what it brought out of me. So I did that. And then I finally was like, I'm going to talk to them and tell them that we need to handle this differently. And I did. I gave them a fair shot and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But they could not commit to the boundaries that I was trying to set. And Gigi has been on me and drilling in me boundaries. Boundaries means that the things happening around you affect you badly. And no matter what, even if you love people or you like those people, if you don't tell them that, hey, actually, when you walk in my house with your shoes on, that bothers me. There's nothing wrong with you, like, you know what I'm saying, having a preference. And your boundaries are just the preferences that make you feel at peace on the inside. And if you don't know what makes you feel better, then you won't be able to tell them. And if you do tell them they don't listen, no matter who they are, then they can't be in your life.
That's right.
And one of the biggest things for me was he has to stop drinking. And so I had some rules. I said, he has to go to AA. But at that time, and Gigi listening to it was like, okay. But it took still months from that for me to acknowledge that plenty of people are alcoholics and still don't want to touch their kids. And so there was a thing in me that had to acknowledge that I believe that there's a reason that he did what he did because he's my parent.
Mhm.
So he had to, something made him do it because no. Or and if I didn't acknowledge that, then I couldn't acknowledge that they were making a choice to choose themselves.
Yes.
And the pain that I went through when I realized, and I told him, I said, but I asked him to stop drinking. And I called Gigi because my mom had accidentally was venting and was talking about he was drunk. And I said, I thought, and mind you, I had started back talking to them again. I took my child, I was trying to rekindle the relationship, and she let it slip up that he was still drinking after they told me that he would stop. He wouldn't go to AA. I'm not an alcoholic, but you said that you touched me because you drank. So in my head, I'm like, well, what's the excuse,
Mm-hmm.
But we all know plenty of alcoholics that don't touch their kids. And so then
Exactly.
I was like, he won't stop drinking, that he's choosing the alcohol, but you know that you doing that made him touch. And I had to realize that they chose each other. My mom chose to keep her marriage, and my dad chose to keep the bottle, and he would have to tell the truth about what has transpired, and they didn't choose me. And that made me feel low. And if I didn't acknowledge that I felt like I wasn't worth being chosen, then I couldn't learn. How do I learn that I am worthy because of my birthright? Simply because I was born. Baby, whoever your parents are, that's something that was given to you. You can't pick that. But the rest of your life, you are worthy. And so it took me years to figure out I'm worthy, which means being single, no relationships, and how to really see yourself. But if you don't be yourself, you won't fall in love. And the person you need to fall in love with is you. And if you fall in love with you, now we can talk about, what do you want? Samia that don't love herself, what she wants is one thing. The Samia that loves herself wants every fucking thing.
Yeah,
it's a greedy bitch.
Yeah.
And so I got to the point where I was able to be honest and say, I really want to write a book.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell the truth. I told the truth. 30 days later, I was on the phone with Carla saying, okay, time to start the podcast. Okay, but I need to record the podcast in my house. And everything that I've ever done for myself, I've always found a way to do it for others. I'm a very selfish person. And I thought that was a bad thing. But I'm also a very equally giving, overly giving person. So anything I've ever created for myself, I never did it until I figured out how to do it for everyone else as well. I'm a loudmouth person, which is why when I work with somebody, I'll be like, oh, I found him from Samia. I know you did. Everybody know Gigi, don't you? You listen to this, you're like, I know Gigi. You feel like you know Gigi. People coming up to her at the artists, they be like, hey, Gigi. And she's like, dude, I know you. I got you to Samia. Oh, Lord.
Samia talks so much about you. All she do is say, my astrologist says, my astrologist. And I'm like,
that sounds like
my fairy godmother. And so that is my gift, gift of gab, and learning to love myself, especially in a marriage where I chose to be there because of the things, and I'm so okay with all of it. It's so fine.
Yes. Because it birthed you. It birthed all this stuff that we're able to talk about right now was through those experiences. You know what I'm saying? And even like you say, even the sexual trauma that is so heavy, like that's a heavy thing to really even think about. But then at the same time, think about all the people who have found themselves in your vibration.
Parenting me.
They have
parenting me.
On,
that
helping
people
you.
that like me. And it's so crazy because it was through this journey that I realized you don't know what it feels like for somebody to like you, because every relationship I was comparing it to was either my parents or my marriage. And look at the material.
Yeah.
You got mama and daddy who say they love you, and then they're doing this. So when other people talk to me the way that they were talking to me or doing the things that they were doing, that's your comparison. So you talking about, why did you marry this person? Well, look what I grew up in. Anything was better.
Yes.
The standard was in hell. The bar was in hell. So it was like, oh, well, like this marriage feels better than my childhood, so this has to be good, right? Yeah. And then it was like, oh, you talk too much, or the way that you talk. Guess what? The way that I talk made me a $1 million company.
Yes.
So find people and be in places that like how you are. Yeah. If what you truly want to be, if it annoys someone around you, that's not where you're supposed to be. What I've learned is that the people that are around me, my quirks aren't their thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's your quirk, no problem, that's not my thing. And the things that are their things, their boundaries, that's not my thing. Like, oh, you need me to snap 3 times before I come in the room? I could do that, that don't bother me. No, but like, that's how it is. You find people that however you are and however you need to heal isn't their boundary. You know what I mean? And who you are shouldn't be annoying to someone else. So now I'm around people that like me, and it's so weird.
You're drawing your tribe.
It's so
baby.
nice.
You're drawing your tribe. And all of it, the trauma help you to get your tribe. And that's one thing people need to realize. Your trauma brings your tribe. Why? Because we have similar experiences that we got going on, and we can come together and have those conversations, and say, okay, this is how we connect. And this is also how we can heal together. You know what I'm saying? So it's been a beautiful experience, even though it has its traumatic times.
Look here.
It does. But it's beautiful.
So I would like to end off with, before we move on to the advice segment, is the way that generational patterns are created is when the opportunity, the window opens and you don't take it. That's how generational patterns are created, because there's a moment in time for you to do something, but you got to be considerate of the universe and considerate of others. What you do is going to ripple. If you don't do this, then something else isn't going to happen.
Yep.
When you choose not to speak up about this, like if this opportunity with Pluto changing is a chance for certain careers, certain things to flourish. If I had not got into and become a woman in radio when I did, the opportunities that are about to open up in the world would have still happened, but I would not have been in place to also receive them. So a lot of times we're chasing after something, but what does that look like? That is how you curate your life. What does it look like to have these things? What does a person who wants to own a content house, how much do they make? What do they eat for breakfast? How do you have to start thinking about those details to slowly start becoming who you want to be. And the only way you can do that is actually acknowledge that you want more.
Yes.
And that was one of the biggest things for Gigi, to get me to dream again.
Yes.
I used to dream. That's what kept me safe, imagining. And that's why I'd be like, to me, if you look back, I didn't feel like I had a bad childhood because I always found a way. I always found a way to enjoy, to find the brighter side of things. And that's something that wasn't supposed to be taken away from me. And you helped bring that back and was like, think bright. We would get into arguments because I wanted something big. And she was like, good. What do you want? And I'm like, nothing. I'm simple. I'm not complex. I'm
simple. This simple, right? No.
And and she was like, okay, that's what you want, right? And she would make me dream again and just tell the truth. Why are you so mad? Why can't you say it? Because I'm embarrassed to say I want to be a star, that I want to be on TV. Not because I want the clout, but because I want to be everywhere looking fine as fuck while also being amazing, proving to the world that I can be a star and not be a bitch. But guess what? You ain't proving to nobody. Just learning who to respond to and how you carry yourself, and understanding that every choice you make, every boundary you put in place, every time you stick to that discipline, you're choosing you. And even no matter who else in your life has not chosen you, you have the opportunity to show people how you demand to be loved. And you do it no matter what. And every time you do that, it becomes something different.
Yes.
Hey, you guys. Hope you're enjoying the show. I just had to stop by and let you know that if you have not ordered your thigh-high socks from Sexual Essentials, you're behind. I know how it feels to buy lingerie and you say, ooh, I'm going to be real sexy and put it on, and it's sitting in the back of your drawer collecting dust. Let me tell you, the thigh-high socks are just so convenient. They're super sexy and they're actually comfortable. So instead of feeling like you have to make that large leap into lingerie, try the thigh-high socks. Your partner gets to see you looking sexy as well as yourself, and they're super comfortable. Don't forget to use our code NJASP for 15% off. Tell your friends and make sure that you get your favorite color before they're gone. All right, now back to the show.
So, with that being said, let's get into the advice of where do you start with astrology. And so I would like you to talk to the points of how to pull the birth chart and the website that we suggest, and also the platform that you don't suggest and another option instead.
That's going to hurt some folks right there.
It is.
But first things first. In order for you to start to understand astrology, you have to look beyond your sun sign, okay? So you can't just, I'm this and this is, no, you are way more than that. And if you allow yourself to only tap into just your sun sign, you're going to miss so much. So rule number 1, you have to pull up a birth natal chart. You know what I'm saying? You can Google search it. My recommended places to go for your first time, I love to start off with Cafe Astrology. The reason why I like Cafe Astrology is because it is a like a in your face box. It gives you the basics, and it's also going to give you all the planets. So like she was saying, you do need your place of birth, city and state. You need the time of birth. And those things are going to give you a full composite of all of your planets as well as your houses, right? And most of the charts, when you pull it up, is going to give you something that's called a Placidus calculation. The Placidus calculation is just giving you houses, how they fall in order. But there's many different calculations when it comes down to astrology, but we're just going to start there at the basics. Once you get into that, it's definitely a really good thing for you to spend a lot of time studying your moon sign. The reason why I say study your moon sign is because most of the things that you have available in your chart, you could be a billionaire in your chart. If you do not understand how to emote or understand how to handle yourself emotionally, most of that stuff that's in your chart, you'll never really get a chance to experience. You'll keep duplicating old patterns and old ways because you don't know how to emotionally handle things. So it's just spending a lot of time.
It's the directions on how to handle you.
Yes, it is the major thing. Like, so a lot of things happen to you or how you deal with them is all in your moon sign. So studying your moon sign, but just definitely looking over and becoming very familiar with your big three. So that means what's your sun, what's your moon, and what's your rising. Yes. If you can start with your big three and study your big three, if you don't do nothing else from this conversation, study your big three will start to get you into alignment of what the chart is.
It's a good start. Yes. Like if you start there, eventually don't even worry about the process. Yes. Just start there. And if you don't have your time of birth,
if you don't have your time of birth, you're not going to be able to calculate your houses and you will not know your rising sign. And that's what's so important about the time. So let me speak on that, for example, because there's also a generation where the time of birth was not put on your actual birth certificate, but it is on your birth record. So if you have able to go to your Secretary of State where your birth certificate is filed, you can also ask them for a birth record. The birth record is when the nurse or the doctor says, okay, 713, right? Mm-hmm. They fill out your birth record before they fill out your birth certificate. Mm-hmm. So if it's not on your birth certificate, you can request from the state a birth record. If you by chance don't have access to that, right? Then this is where intuition comes in. Because we all have that. You can, number one, ask your parents if they're still alive. Ask your mom or your dad or whoever was at your birth, around about what time was I born? So if they say, oh, I don't know the exact time, but it was between 7 and 8. That's good. You can do a chart. Like what I would do as your astrologer, you say, oh, my mom said I was born between 7 or 8. I will put in 7:30. The reason why I will put in 7:30 is because most of the planetary shift in those dynamics sometimes lasts 30, 40 minutes. So that means we're still going to be in the ballpark, even though we may not have the exact time. Mm-hmm. If you are just so happen don't have both of your parents are deceased and, nobody was around your birth, this is where you have to tap into yourself. You can literally pray if you are into, Christianity and you still pray, because astrology is not negating that. Right.
They're Christian astrologers.
Yes. You can pray and you can say, God, show me the time, right? Mm-hmm. If you are not a Christian, but you are a spiritualist, you can go into your meditation and you can actually request in meditation, what is the time of my birth? And I promise you, I'm willing to put all stacks on it, that you will get a time. And then you want to put that time in and then allow those aspects to also give you a speak. So meaning like allowing yourself to dig into those things. It's going to give you your houses, give you your rising sign, and that's going to be that. For studying and for daily information on what is going on in your chart, Time Passages. It's a free app. You go on, do the exact same thing I'm talking about, which is to put in your birth information, and it's going to give you the astrology wheel, which is what we are most familiar with. Like when you really look at what true astrology is a 360-degree bubble with all of your aspects inside of it, but it's a lot of math and there's a lot of angles, so it can be confusing. So it's going to give you that, and then it's going to also give you a tab where it's going to break down all of your planets, this exact same thing that we're talking about. On the third tab, it's going to give you what's affecting you for the day. So if you want to know, what am I experiencing today? Or why am I feeling a little irritated? What's going on? Why can't I focus? These things are in your chart, and you can go on time passages and it'll start to help you to get into alignment with astrology, meaning how to use it. If you go and look and it says, today is a really strong day for you to have conversations of business, or it's a really good day for you to have conversations with family to clear karma. It's definitely going to give you those markers so you'll know this is a great day for me to work on certain things, and it's not a great day for me to go and sign off on a loan. It's not a great day for that. So Time Passage is the number one app that I prefer my clients to use when it comes down to us studying astrology. The app I do not care for, and I know a lot of you new astrologists are probably or new people following astrologists probably not gonna like this. I don't like the pattern. Okay, I'm not a fan of the pattern. The reasons why I'm not a fan of the pattern is because it doesn't teach you. It's giving you these just scopes of things that's happening. It's not telling you where it's coming from. Time passages tell you what aspect. It's like your sun is conjuncting your 10th house. It's going to give you those things. Pattern doesn't give you that.
Now you can Google that sentence to understand what it means.
Yes. Or it's going to give you the description in that.
Trendy. It's a very trendy app. It's like watching Twitter. It's like watching Twitter doing astrology on Twitter. And you guys, I'm so sorry. We kind of got to we're going to y'all, she coming back.
Yeah.
I when I tell you I promise, I know in my heart she coming back.
Of course I am, because you're going to make sure that it happens.
These are the facts. And you guys don't have to go as deep, especially if you're just starting. But the thing is that Time Passages is pretty easy to digest, and the parts you don't understand, they make it clear what you should be typing into Google.
Exactly.
Versus the pattern doesn't. And you don't have to follow every day, you guys. It's not like that. Sometimes you start off with the wide scope, which is the wide scope is booking Gigi for a reading.
Yes.
That's the wide scope. And so I'm going to drop some information where she's going to create a code for you guys, and she's going to run a special for this. She used to do it for our Patreon members. She does not do it anymore. Gigi has been on Lifetime. One of them show. Which one? HBO?
Oh, Lifetime.
Okay,
yes.
Lifetime. I was like, I know. You saw me question myself. Okay, got you. She's been on Lifetime. She lives in Mexico doing retreats. She does a lot of things. And so her gift has landed her with clients where she works with them, but she's going to do this, and not for a very long time, where she's going to go back just because we're doing this and she loved me so much. Some of individual readings. And so I'll put the information in the description below so that way you guys can take advantage of that. If you're listening to this and that has passed, we apologize. But so that is your wide scope. If you want to start with astrology wide scope, book her. Okay. That's wide. You could do that just once in your lifetime, get your birth chart read. You ain't never got to do it again.
Yes.
Then you can decide what type of packages to go into with her as a smaller scope, right? Or you can just get the Time Passages app and look up your chart every now and then, or just read about you. There are different ways to approach this. The detailed way is going all the way down to the daily and all of that. We're not pressuring you to do that. We just want to make sure we give you some information so that way you can decide and feels what's right within you. And also I wanted to mention, there was something that Gigi had told me about, if you don't have your time, are you an early riser? Are you a night owl? And things like that, intuition, where we have to guess. And no matter what, if you're wrong, you guys, life has a way of putting you back where you need to be. So don't stress it. And so I'm going to give us the spiritual tip of the day.
Okay.
Which is, if you don't, and the spiritual tip of the day, you guys, this was a very spiritual episode, but the spiritual tip of the day is supposed to be a way for us to break it down into tiny pieces and take a little bit of learning every day, whether that's through a quote or through learning about something specific or whatever. And our spiritual tip of the day is, if you don't acknowledge what you want, you can't have it.
Come on.
What is meant for you can't find you if it doesn't know that you want it. And don't worry about what you don't know. Don't worry about the how. What I know is that if you tell me what you want to do, now we can figure it out. We can figure out what you need to let go of, what needs to change. But if we don't know the end goal, there is no way for us to figure out the path. And so whatever you're dreaming about, whatever you can't stop thinking about, whatever you want to say but feel like you can't say, don't worry about that. We're gonna work that shit out. That shit gonna work out and that shit gonna go away. But tell me what it is that thing is. What is that thing to you? Okay? Don't talk about it too much because we don't want to give off no false endorphins that you've accomplished it. But we do need you to acknowledge it so that way you can get on the path of change. And so if you really want to change your life, you have to admit what it is that you truly want. And if you don't know what you want, then it's time for you to sit with self and figure it out and focus on that. So I want to thank you so much for being everything that you've been in this life to me, for mothering me. I'm not gonna cry. My makeup look too damn good. It's not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Bang your face. Bang your face. Oh, okay. Whew. It was trying to sneak up on me.
I saw it.
It was trying. You saw that little corner. That little corner. We just gonna let it, let the air. Thank you so much. It's so good to have these. There is nobody that can replace my mom. I love her and I miss her so much, but it's so good that life gave her some backup. That gave her some backup so I can get the chance. And I'm just so grateful for everything that you've been and you continue to be in me and in my friends and in my team, how you've changed lives. And I'm so proud of you for choosing to be you and changing your life, 15 years ago? 20 years ago. Living in Mexico, living your best life. That's so amazing. And I love that for you. I love that for you. Thank you for being my fairy godmother.
You're welcome. Yes. Thank you for having me. Thank you for saying yes to us and our relationship and all of the things that I keep saying to you. You know, I know sometimes it can seem a bit much, you know, but just know that I know, just like you know, that you deserve all of it and more. So thank you for this relationship. And I look forward to just continuing to, you know, blow the smug up. Even
Bitch, look here. We coming in hot, okay?
Yes.
Today we are shooting in the Java room.
Come
okay?
on.
This
look at this.
is
Look at
the
this
library.
Feeling. Oh my God.
This library was designed by Naya Abdallah, and she did an amazing job. She had some assistance, and the books were actually handpicked and curated by the Winebrarian. I will drop both of their information below. Every single one of these books was handpicked with love and black assness, okay? It's blackety, black as fuck in here, okay? There is a banned book section, classics, everything. And this set is amazing. And if you didn't know, now you know that the Something Extraordinary Content House is now open and ready for bookings. So please make sure that you check all the links below and that you watch the visuals because, baby, this is a fucking vibe. It is a vibe. This set is everything. So I'm so excited, so happy, and so thankful that you guys joined me on this amazing episode and that you guys have saved space for me and that you've continued to push me and listen to me and just help me be me. So thank you guys so much. I will continue bringing the heat. And baby, you better follow and tap in because I'm coming in hot.
We love you so much.
I'm coming in hot. Gigi, tell the folks where they can find you. We would drop all her stuff below because people be trying to fake and impersonate my dog.
Come on.
So all that will be below. But please give us that and we're going to get up out of here.
Number one space, I am livingaligned.com. That's my website. You can definitely find me on IG. You can find me on Facebook if y'all still on Facebook. Y'all already know how that is. Definitely on Twitter, but I'm on all spaces as I am living aligned. On Twitter, I am aligned goddess. And yeah, you can also, find me through her,
pretty much.
You can definitely go on her page, and I'm definitely there somewhere. There. Trust me.
Make sure that you tap into the Patreon, you guys. She's done so many things, and I know this was a lot, but that's where we break things down into smaller places. Some of those relationships and things that we've reflected on are no longer, but the lessons are still there, and it teaches you so much about love and how to understand and so many different things. So make sure that you tap in with her.
And we have monthly classes too. That's another thing.
That's why I'm like, you have to tap
every
in.
Month,
everything will be.
Yeah, my community comes together and we break these things down. I mean, I realize that we're in a level where people are still making astrology very gimmicky. And I want people to understand how life-changing this math is. So you can definitely tap in, even if it's not for a session. Join the classes every month and it's going to start to help you to incorporate it.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure that you guys subscribe to the Patreon. Click the link below. And make sure that you support. Okay, so tell a friend to listen to the damn podcast. You know what I'm saying? Leave us a review, share with somebody. It costs $0.00 to help me do what the hell I'm supposed to be doing.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? So share a reel, follow us, tag us, Not Just Another Sex Podcast. And please don't forget to tell me what this did for you. I need to know if I'm going in the right direction. I'm here to serve you and I want to be used, but I can only do that if you guys tap in with me. Okay? So I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. And all right, we gotta go. Bye.